Today our lesson is on basic terms of geometry. We'll be looking at undefined terms in geometry, defined terms in geometry, sketching and drawing in geometry, and column note-taking skills. Our first undefined term can be represented by a symbol, which is a dot, or we can use the word to name it. It has no dimension. The point is named using a capital letter. And as you can see, we either put the dot with the letter or we write out the word with the letter. Our second one is a line. A line is one dimension. It's represented by a straight line. We put arrows on both ends of the line. It's named using 2 points on the line. Here I have point A and point B, or by a small case letter next to the line, line L. If you use the 2 points to name the line, we use the symbol for a line written above it with the 2 letters. We use the word line if we're going to name it with the letter next to the line. You could also write this line and name it as line BA. Our third undefined term in geometry is a plane. A plane has 2 dimensions. It's represented usually by a rectangle or a parallelogram shape. We name it with 3 points inside of the plane. In my example, this would be plane ABC. You could name it also CBA, BCA, etc. It's also named by a letter that you see as a capital letter inside of the plane. So here we have a capital L. You can name it plane L using the word or the symbol. You can also use the word or the symbol if you're going to name it with any of the 3 points that are inside of the plane. Remember, always use capital letters when you're naming the points. Let's look at an example, naming the line in 3 different ways. So in this example, we could name this line XY, line XZ, line YN, line ZN, any 2 points on the line. Another way we could name it is line M. If it says to name it in 3 different ways, as long as you pick 3 ways to name the line, any of the ones that I just described are correct. So as you can see, sometimes there's going to be more ways to name it than the number of possible ways it asks in the problem. Just list it like it says in the problem. The next thing we'll look at are some terms. Collinear points. Collinear means on the same line. Collinear points then are any points that you have on a straight line, and you would name all of those points, or however many you're asked to name. Coplanar points mean in the same plane. Again, these would be points that you would find in a plane, and you would look to see how many points you're asked in a problem to name or to draw on a picture. Here's another example. Name 4 points that are coplanar in the same plane. That would be the 4 points inside of our plane. We would list them as L, M, N, and O. 4 points not coplanar. The key word here is not. Any point that includes the point P, because point P is not inside of the plane, would be correct. I'll list P first. Then any other 3 points would make them not all in the same plane. Name 3 points that are collinear on the same line. That would have to be the 3 on the line shown, which are points L, N, and O. Next, we have a line segment. A line segment is a part of a line with definite endpoints. It's measurable. We do have to be careful how we name a line segment. We have to pay attention to the part of the line if we have a more extended line than just a line segment that we're going to be measuring. My example here shows just line segment AB or BA. Notice the symbol above it. No arrows if it's a line segment versus arrows if it was a line when we're using the symbol. A ray is a part of a line with an initial point on one end and goes on forever in one direction. So this would have an initial point of A. We would name it AB. BA would not be correct because the first letter when you name the ray has to be the initial or starting point, and then you use your symbol for the ray to show which direction that the ray is going. The second example, we'll look at how to write the ray in two different ways. On the second example picture, we would have to start with our initial point, which is point C, and then we could use any of the other letters on the ray. Notice the direction the ray is drawing to the left. When I write it, I typically use the same symbol that I used before. That would mean pointing to the right. So be careful when you write this. This would be ray C, B, or we could also name this ray C, A. Opposite rays is another term that we use in geometry. We define it as two rays with the same initial point, and these rays are collinear or in the same line. That would mean in my example picture, BA and BC are opposite rays since B would be an initial point on the line. In this drawing, it would depend upon where we start for the initial point as to how we would name the opposite rays. If I start, for example, at point F as my initial point, I would then use ray F, E, and ray F, G, or you could also say ray FH as a pair of opposite rays. Another pair of opposite rays, if we start this time with point G as the initial point, would look like this. Ray G, F. We could also name it ray GE and ray GH. Since they're a pair of opposite rays, we need to make sure that we list them both when we're asked to find a pair of opposite rays. For geometry class, a lot of students like to use 2 or 3 column notes. I have an example for 3 column notes. Divide the paper into 3 columns. Label it word, definition, and example or illustration. Here are some notes for point. The notes are listed on the left. The actual column notes then are listed in the 3 columns. As you can see, point, definition, and how it's represented. Here's the same thing. These are the notes that I originally showed. Here's how to put it into 3 columns. Line is defined in the column 2, and an illustration and how it's symbolized. The final thing I'll show you are some basic drawings. I have a couple of examples for you to look at. The first one has 2 points, A and B, that are coplanar and collinear. Remember, coplanar means they're in the same plane, collinear on the same line. Here are points A and B on the same line in plane M. Second example are two planes that intersect. Here's an example of plane M and plane N that intersect. And my third example, three collinear points, so they have to be on the same line, A, B, and C. D is not on the same line or not collinear with points A, B, and C. And we have to have a line A, B, C is included on that, remember, because it's collinear, and a ray BD. And that's it for today for your lesson.